Part 18. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 171. Chapter 171. I wish I could skin her. How could his fragile little heart withstand such frequent threats? Is there a problem? Yes, he glanced at his slightly resentful expression and narrowed his deep eyes. No. Wei Zheng immediately stood up straight, straightened his back, looked at him with confidence, and affirmed, there is no problem at all. Don't worry, Mr. Mo, I will definitely do what you ask me to do. Yes, he waved his hand, go out. Someone is sleeping in the room, so be gentle when closing the door. Wei Zheng, yes. Asterisk. Hospital. Lin Huijin has been crying since she woke up from a coma. Mom, don't cry anymore. Qiao Angzhen was a little upset by her crying, and her tone became serious. I keep crying, what's the use of crying? I'm tired enough, can you please let me be quiet for a while? Qiao Angzhen's assistant is holding an ice pack and applying it to her face. In half a month, her new drama will start filming. When the time comes, naturally you can't go filming with a swollen face. Moreover, she has an announcement in 2 days, and she must remove the bruises on her face before going to the announcement. Lin Huijin raised her head with red eyes, with an angry expression on her face. You girl, what do you mean? Your mother was bullied like this, and you don't feel bad, and you find me annoying? This is what you should do as a daughter. Attitude. Qiao Angzhen pursed her lips, with an angry expression on her face, gritted her teeth and said in a deep voice, do you think you are the only one being bullied? What's the use of crying at this time? What problem can it solve? Now I just want Xiao Mian pay a heavy price. Hearing her mention Xiao Mian, Lin Huijin's eyes showed resentment, and the expression on her face became distorted. She gritted her teeth and said, that little is really hateful, I can't wait to skin her. I don't know where she hooked up with a wild man, but he bullied us mother and daughter like this. It's so hateful, I can't swallow my bad breath when I think of that little sitting on top of us and showing off his power. By the way, have you called Suzy? Qiao Angzhen listened to her muttering complaints, but her mind had already flown to other places. The man Xiao Mian hooked up with was no wild man. That is a man who is much better than Suzy. Before she met that man, she felt that Suzy's conditions were quite good in all aspects, and she was very satisfied with them. A man like Suzy can make her look good wherever she goes. But now, she began to feel dissatisfied. As soon as she compared that mysterious man with Suzy, she found that the things about Suzy that she thought were his shining points were not worth mentioning at all. The gap between him and the mysterious man was like a sky and an earth. There is no comparison at all. She has always been very competitive. How could she tolerate Xiao Mian looking for a man who is better than her? An Xian, are you listening to me? Lin Huijin's slightly annoyed voice sounded in her ears, which brought Qiao Angzhen back to reality from her fugue state. Lin Huijin frowned and looked at her. I asked you if you called Suzy. When will he come to the hospital? What are you doing? You look like you are in a trance. Also, who is that wild man with Xiao Mian? Who, do you know him? End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 172. Chapter 172. Is there someone outside? Qiao Angzhen was feeling troubled and replied rudely. He said he was negotiating a very important contract and would come back later. What? Lin Huijin looked dissatisfied. After such a thing happened, he still had the heart to negotiate some contract. Didn't you tell him that we are in the hospital now? Said. Speaking of this matter, Qiao Angzhen was also a little uncomfortable. He didn't think the situation was very serious. Thinking about how the mysterious man stood up for Xiao Mian, and thinking about Suzy's attitude of not particularly caring, Qiao Angzhen felt angry. She thought that Suzy would rush over as soon as she knew she was beaten. But not. He just expressed a few words of distress on the phone and then went back to his business. Even though Chiao Angzan now has a new goal, Suzy's attitude still makes her feel heartbroken. Because she clearly remembered that a similar thing happened to Chiao Mian 1 year. Suzy was also discussing business with someone at that time, but he quickly rushed to her side. She saw it in her eyes at the time, and she didn't know how envious she was. His girlfriend and future mother-in-law were both admitted to the hospital. Isn't it serious? Lin Huijin was so angry that she almost jumped out of bed. He doesn't take our mother and daughter seriously. Don't you say he is very serious? Do you care about you and like you very much? You are still pregnant with his child. This is his attitude. How can he do it in the future? Shouldn't it be? Lin Huijin's expression suddenly changed. She grabbed Chiao Angzan's hand and asked nervously, "Is there someone outside?" Thinking that her daughter is pregnant now, Suzy will definitely not be satisfied in that regard. Suzy is also the boss of Xinggui Entertainment, and there are many beauties in his company. There will inevitably be some foxy people who want to seduce him to a higher position, and now is the best time. Thinking of this, Lin Huijin's face became much uglier. "NXIN, please call and ask where Suzy is. Go over and have a look. I suspect that he was dragged by some foxy girl and couldn't get away. He has such good conditions, there must be many foxy people who want to take advantage of him. You must be careful and don't let anyone take advantage of him." Chiao Angzan's expression changed. "Mom, Brother A's is not that kind of person." Lin Huijin sneered, "There are not many good men, and how many can refuse the women who come to their door? If he is not that kind of person, can you him away from Chiao Mian? These words were like a slap in Chiao Angzan's face. His face was so painful that it burned. She shouted angrily, "Mom!" Lin Huijin realized that she had said the wrong thing and scolded her daughter as well. She hurriedly smiled and explained, "Ahem, NXIN, Mom is not talking about you, Mom is talking about those shameless foxes. It's more like the darker it gets." Chiao Angzan had a cold face, slapped the little assistant next to her on the face, and vented her anger on her. "You are so clumsy, you can't do such a simple thing well." The assistant was so frightened that she trembled and shouted in a tearful tone, "I'm sorry, Sister Anan." The assistant's eyebrows looked somewhat similar to Chiao Mian's. Chiao Angzan chose her as his assistant at that time for this reason. Any dissatisfaction she had was vented on this little assistant, who bullied her just like she bullied Chiao Mian. Makes Chiao Angzan feel very happy. "Thank you for your support, babies, I love you. Thank you for the 70% girly heart. The last number of 138 is 48, the last number of 189 is 84, the little woman who loves to be entangled and the cat who doesn't like to eat fish, for your reward." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 173. Chapter 173. She must find a way to stop it. Seeing the pitiful look on the little assistant's face, Chiao Angzan became even more furious. He slapped her face again and said bitterly, weeping all day long, "It's bad luck just looking at her. Get out." The female assistant shed tears of grievance, but did not dare to refute a word. She wiped her tears, turned and left. Seeing this scene, Lin Huijin waited for the female assistant to leave, then frowned and said, "Don't be too harsh to your assistant, aren't you afraid that she will expose you? You are a public figure now, and your image cannot be ruined." Chiao Angzan curled her lips disapprovingly, "I know her, she doesn't have the guts." Lin Huijin wanted to persuade her again, but Chiao Angzan interrupted her impatiently, "Okay, Mom, I know what to do. After she finished speaking, she took out her mobile phone and made a call. Soon, the call was connected over there. Chiao Angzan asked in a cold voice, "Did you call Chiao Mian about the substitute?" A few seconds later. "What?" Chiao Angzan gritted her teeth and said with an ugly expression, "She refused." After a few seconds, she hung up the phone angrily, and was so angry that she smashed the phone to the ground. Lin Huijin was startled. "What's going on?" Chiao Angzan said nothing. Thinking of the phone call just now, she clenched her fingers. Chiao Mian refused the job of a stand-in. It must be because of that mysterious man. He has now become Chiao Mian's supporter. Naturally, Chiao Mian no longer has to accept those small roles with little money. Chiao Angzan suddenly felt a sense of crisis. If that man was willing to praise Chiao Mian as Suzy did to her, wouldn't that little have a chance to become famous? Chiao Angzan knows better than anyone else that Chiao Mian's conditions are better than hers in all aspects. There were several audition roles before. The director originally preferred Chiao Mian, but she asked Suzy for help to those roles. Otherwise, that little is still doing a side job for others. Chiao Mian naturally doesn't know these things. Chiao Angzan knew very well what might happen if she gave Chiao Mian a chance. That little may not only become popular, she may even surpass her current results. How could she tolerate this happening? No, she must find a way to stop the little before she becomes popular. Mom, you should have a good rest. I have to go out and see you later. Chiao Angzan took out the huge sunglasses from her bag and put them on. She turned around and left the ward with her bag. Asterisk. Lin Huijin lives in the second inpatient department. After Chiao Angzan walked out of the door of the second inpatient department, she turned a corner and walked onto a path, heading towards the third inpatient department. She remembered that Chiao Chen lived in the third inpatient building. But when she found the room where Chiao Chen used to live based on her memory, she found that there was a new person in the ward. She found a nurse and asked. The nurse glanced at her and asked, "Miss, what is your relationship with Mr. Chiao?" Chiao An thought for a moment, then said with disgust, "I'm her sister." The nurse was stunned, stared at her up and down, and said doubtfully, "Mr. Chiao has a sister who came to the hospital to see him, but I am his second sister." Chiao Angzan's face showed a trace of impatience. "Didn't he tell you that he has two sisters? Just tell me, has he been discharged from the hospital?" The nurse saw that she was dressed unusually and claimed to be Chiao Chen's second sister, so she thought she was not lying. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 174. Chapter 174. Do you suspect that I lied to you? Suddenly, his attitude towards her was quite respectful. "Ah, I'm sorry. Miss Chiao, Mr. Chiao has not been discharged from the hospital yet. But he has changed to a different ward, and he no longer lives here." Chiao Angzan blinked. "You don't live here anymore? Where did you go?" The nurse glanced at her and muttered to herself that since they were siblings, how could they not even know this? But he still replied politely, "Mr. Chiao has long moved to the VIP ward in the Special Administrative Region." Chiao Angzan's expression suddenly changed when she heard the words Special Zone VIP ward. Her face showed disbelief. "Are you sure where Chiao Chen moved? Since it is a VIP ward in the Special Administrative Region, it is not a place where ordinary people can stay. Even if you have money, it won't work. Those who can live in that area are extremely prominent and powerful people. I think back when the old man of the Su family was ill and hospitalized, Suzy and his father tried so many connections but could not get the old man into the VIP ward of the Special Administrative Region. How could Chiao Chen, a short-lived and impoverished ghost, be able to live in this place?" But she quickly guessed that it must be the mysterious man who arranged for Chiao Chen to go there. She became more and more jealous. Things that even the Su family can't do, that man can do. Who is he? What is his identity? She asked herself that she had met most of the wealthy young men in Yunchinj, but she really had no impression of that man. Is it possible that he has never lived in Yunchinj before? I'm going to see my brother, please take me there. Jiao Angzhen took a deep breath, holding back all the reluctance and jealousy in her heart, and ordered the nurse in a commanding tone. At this time, the nurse became suspicious of her identity. Miss Jiao, you can call Mr. Jiao and he will tell you which ward he lives in. What do you mean? Jiao Angzhen frowned, do you suspect that I lied to you? Ms. Jiao, no. I am Jiao Angzhen. Jiao Angzhen reached out and took off her sunglasses, revealing her covered face, and said impatiently, do you still think I'm lying to you now? When the nurse looked up, she saw her swollen face and was immediately startled. After careful identification, the woman with the red and swollen face in front of me seems to be the popular A-list beauty Jiao Angzhen. But why did Jiao Angzhen's face become so swollen? As if someone had beaten him hard. Moreover, she is actually Jiao Chen's other sister? This is surprising. Jiao Chen has been hospitalized for so long, and Jiao Angzhen has never come to visit him. In previous interviews, Jiao Angzhen never mentioned that she had a sister and a brother. The nurse vaguely guessed something. I'm afraid the relationship between this family is a bit complicated. Also, I have always heard people say how approachable and down-to-earth Jiao Angzhen is, but it seems that these are all false personas. Her impatient look just now was no longer friendly at all. Sure enough, the public image of celebrities cannot be trusted too much. Asterisk. Jiao Angzhen was taken outside the VIP ward where Jiao Chen lived. She was stunned when she saw several bodyguards standing outside the ward. The nurse stepped forward and explained her identity to the bodyguards. The bodyguard looked at her carefully for a few seconds and said to her in a cold voice, wait a moment. After saying that, he turned around and walked into the ward. Jiao Angzhen stood at the door and wanted to go in directly, but was stopped by someone. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 175. Chapter 175. Who are you? I don't know you. Several other bodyguards standing outside said to her in a cold voice, if you want to visit Mr. Jiao Chen, you need his permission to go in. She was furious. How dare that short-lived ghost Jiao Chen put on such a big air against her? Who is he? Get out of the way, I am Jiao Chen's sister. Do I still need his permission to see my younger brother? The bodyguard still stopped her and said coldly, sorry, Mr. Jiao Chen's sister, we only know one Miss Jiao Mian. Who are you? Damn it, I'm. Just as Jiao Angzhen was about to introduce herself, she heard Jiao Chen's voice coming from the ward, I don't know this woman, please drive her away. Hearing Jiao Chen say that she didn't know her, Jiao Angzhen almost jumped in anger, but thinking about the purpose of her trip, she held back her anger and put on a gentle tone, Chen, I am your second sister. How come you don't know me? Are you angry that the second sister didn't come to visit you? The second sister was really busy some time ago, and she couldn't afford to come to see you. No, I'll come over as soon as I'm free. Don't be angry with me anymore. Let the second sister go in and talk to you, okay? The young man in the ward had delicate eyebrows and a cold face, and looked at her expressionlessly, second sister? I only have one sister. Who are you? I don't know you. Being humiliated again and again, Jiao Angzhen vomited until she was about to vomit blood. The gentleness disguised on his face also began to stiffen. She took a deep breath, clenched her fists, pulled away the corners of her lips, and squeezed out a stiff smile, Chen, I'm looking for you for something very important. It's related to your eldest sister. Do you really not want to know? Jiao Chen frowned and stared at her for a few seconds. Seeing that the expression on his face relaxed, Jiao Angzhen immediately said, I know you care about your sister the most, and in fact I care about her too. So I must let you know about this. Sister, she has always valued you, and she only then can you persuade her. What are you talking about? You let me go in first, these things cannot be known to outsiders. There was a trace of hesitation on the young man's beautiful and delicate face. After a moment, he said to the bodyguard outside, let her in. Asterisk. When Jiao Angzhen entered the ward and closed the door, Jiao Chen immediately asked, tell me, what is it? Jiao Chen has only had a good relationship with Jiao Mian since he was a child. The two siblings do not have much competition with Jiao Angzhen. When they grew up, they even disliked each other. After knowing that Jiao Angzhen was still involved with Suzy, Jiao Chen became even more disgusted with her. If what she said was not related to Jiao Mian, he would never see her. After Jiao Angzhen walked into the ward, she looked around and thought, no wonder people with some money want to live here. The wards here are very different from those in other places. She saw expensive flowers placed on the bedside table and coffee table, and there were so many expensive supplements that she couldn't even look at them. The more I looked at it, the more uncomfortable I felt. It can be seen that the man also attaches great importance to Jiao Chen. This shows that he cares about Jiao Mian. Just thinking about this made her feel sour, especially uncomfortable. She slowly walked to the bedside, looked down at Jiao Chen, and asked hypocritically, Chen, how are you now? Are you feeling better? Jiao Chen didn't even bother to engage in such hypocrisy with her, and replied rudely, I can't die. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 176. Chapter 176. Let her break up with that man quickly. Jiao Angzhen. This brat. Now, just like his sister, relying on someone to rely on, he is lifted up to heaven. If you have anything to do, just tell me directly. Jiao Chen was upset when he looked at her, his face full of impatience, and he didn't give her any face. What on earth are you talking about your sister? Normally, Jiao Angzhen wouldn't have bothered to look at his face. But at this time, I can only endure it. She was so angry that she gritted her teeth to suppress her anger, pretended to be worried, and sighed, it's not my sister's personal problem. Do you know that she met a man recently? Chen, have you seen that man? Jiao Chen narrowed his eyes, you mean brother-in-law? Jiao Angzhen's face suddenly changed, what did you call him? Brother-in-law. Jiao Chen sneered and said with a bit of show-off, of course I have seen it. The first time we met, my brother-in-law gave me a watch worth millions. My brother-in-law is good-looking and has a lot of money. And being so kind to my sister, he and my sister are a perfect match. Ah, my sister is such a good woman, and only my brother-in-law is worthy of her. Jiao Angzhen was stunned. Jiao Chen's name brother-in-law was like a thunderclap, which left her speechless for a long time. Jiao Chen looked at her dumbfounded look, raised his lips, and felt very happy. This is what you want to tell me? Then you don't need to say it. Chen, you call him brother-in-law. Do you know what this title means? Jiao Angzhen clenched her fists, her voice trembling a little. Of course I know. My sister is married to him. If I don't call him brother-in-law, what would I call him? Humph, he wanted to let this pair of scumbags and know that his sister was not a poor who had been abandoned by others and no one wanted her. His sister is happy now. I am 100 times, 1,000 times happier than when I followed that scumbag Suzy. Mary. When Jiao Chen said these two words, Jiao Angzhen took a step back in surprise. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. There was a look of disbelief on her face. Chen Chen, did you hear wrongly? You said they were married? Who told you this? Jiao Mian broke up with Suzy not long ago. How could it be possible to marry another man? Jiao Angzhen never believed that this matter could be true. My sister told me personally. Jiao Chen glanced at Jiao Angzhen's reaction. The handsome young man frowned and said with a defensive look in his eyes, Jiao Angzhen, are you trying to take advantage of your brother-in-law again? I tell you, stop dreaming. Brother-in-law is not like Suzy, the who can't withstand temptation. He only has his sister in his eyes. Don't have any delusions. Jiao Angzhen's thoughts were exposed so directly, and she suddenly became a little angry. What do you believe in what Jiao Mian says? She and that man are not married at all, she is being kept. I'm here today just for this matter. Chen Chen, the relationship between my sister and that man is not what she said at all. She is being kept as a mistress by someone. She is completely disgraced by doing such a thing. The face of our Jiao family. I think you don't want to see her continue to degenerate, right? She won't listen to anything we say, but she can still listen to a few words of yours. You'd better persuade her to break up with that man as soon as possible. Happy weekend everyone. Mian and Mr. Mo will come out tomorrow. Thank you to the Tangled Little Woman and users 159 with the last number of 86 and 156 with the last number of 69 for the rewards. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 177. Chapter 177. You madman. Even though Jiao Chen said this, Jiao Angzhen still didn't believe that Jiao Mian was married to that man. How can that be possible? Such a noble man would choose a woman of Jiao Mian's status to be his wife? Wealthy families are all about being well matched. She was able to be with Suzy because she was doing well in the entertainment industry. Even if the Jiao family failed, her own ability to make money was still good. Can Jiao Mian? A poor woman who has nothing but some beauty can at best serve as a lover for others to toy with. She is nothing more than the mistress kept by that prominent man. Even if you are favored now, you will definitely get kicked when you get tired of it after a while. You fart. After hearing what she said, Jiao Chen became furious and yelled at her, sister is not the kind of person you said. Jiao Angzhen, don't think that everyone is as shameless as you. No bottom line. Get out now. If you dare to say anything bad about my sister in front of me again, don't blame me for being rude. Jiao Chen raised his fist and looked at her with gritted teeth. Jiao Angzhen's face turned green with anger. I didn't expect Jiao Chen to be so protective of Jiao Mian. She was so angry that she could no longer maintain her pretense of gentleness. She took a deep breath, resisting the urge to get angry, and wanted to persuade again, Chen, what I said is true. Sister, she was trapped by that man. Get out. Jiao Chen's face turned livid. He picked up a water glass on the bedside table and threw it at her. Get out of here. Before Jiao Angzhen could finish her words, she saw a glass flying towards her. Her expression changed and she immediately turned her head to avoid him. The cup fell to the ground with a pop sound, and the water inside splashed all over the floor. Jiao Chen, are you crazy? Jiao Angzhen finally couldn't bear it anymore and broke out, gritting his teeth and yelling angrily. Aren't you going to get out? Jiao Chen picked up another vase. You madman. Seeing that he was about to smash the vase over again, Jiao Angzhen was so frightened that she immediately turned around and ran towards the door. He ran to the door, stopped again, and said with a look of reluctance, Chen, what I said is true. My sister knew you couldn't accept this, so she lied and said it was marriage. You need a lot of medicine for surgery. Money, and she refused to accept help from me and brother A's. Speaking of which, she also did it for you, but At this point, she sighed again, this is not a glorious thing after all. I have said everything that needs to be said. It's up to you to believe it or not. After saying that, Chiao Angzhen walked out of the ward. Asterisk. After Chiao Mian woke up, she found herself in a strange place. She walked out of the restroom, opened the door, and saw Mo Yesi sitting at his desk, concentrating on his work. The man's sleeves were rolled up, and 2 buttons on the chest of his black shirt were unbuttoned. The exposed arm muscles were very graceful. The angle at which he lowered his head and the curve of his jaw also looked very charming. The office was quiet, and you could occasionally hear the rustling sound of him flipping through documents. The blinds were rolled up halfway, and dappled sunlight poured in from the window and fell on the dark gray floor. It is said that men are most charming when they do things seriously. Chiao Mian thinks it's absolutely right. Mo Yesi's look of concentrating on his work is really charming. When he didn't speak and had no expression on his face, his whole body was filled with a strong aura of asceticism. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 178. Chapter 178 The Scene of Dog Abuse. It was difficult to associate him at this moment with the man who was so passionate and alluring in front of her. I always feel like they are not the same person. She didn't want to disturb his work, so she walked out quietly. As soon as she took a step forward, she saw the man who was carefully flipping through the documents a second ago slowly raised his head and looked straight at her. He opened his mouth and asked her in a gentle voice, "Baby, have you slept well?" Chiao Mian. She bit her lip and walked towards him a little embarrassed. "Did I disturb you?" "No." Mo Yesi put down the pen in his hand and raised his finger at her. As soon as Chiao Mian walked in front of him, he reached out and pulled her into his arms, wrapped his strong arms around her waist, held her delicate body and sat on his lap. The warm breath blew into her ear, and the man almost spoke into her ear, "You are much more important than work." Chiao Mian's face suddenly turned red. Because she had just woken up, her face was still red, so it was not obvious. The man who exuded an aura of abstinence one second was holding her in his arms and flirting with her the next. It made her little heart beat rapidly. Why didn't you send me back to school?" His breath kept touching her ears, like feathers gently scratching her earlobes. Chiao Mian felt itchy in her ears and tilted her head to avoid it. The man chuckled, "You fell asleep in the car. Seeing how soundly you slept, I couldn't bear to wake you up, so I brought you directly to the company." Chiao Mian had greeted Zhang Luli beforehand. "So it doesn't matter if I don't go to school in the afternoon. Can you let me go?" Chiao Mian was held in the man's arms, her breath was filled with his breath, and her heart was beating very fast against his warm and strong chest. It was so fast that it made her a little scared. This feeling was very unfamiliar to her, so unfamiliar that it made her a little panicked. She was not like this when she got along with Suzy. Perhaps it's because she and Suzy have known each other for too long, and she and he still know very little about each other. That's why she was so unaccustomed to him being too close to her. No, the man laughed lowly again and reached out to touch her head. There was a hint of endearment in his eyes that she didn't see. "Baby, I like holding you like this. Don't you like me holding you?" Chiao Mian. "Huh, do you like your husband holding you like this?" She said nothing, and the man reached out to lift her chin, staring at her with his deep and charming eyes. "Answer me." Chiao Mian's face was as hot as fire, and heat kept coming out of her pores. Her eyes flickered a few times. "Mo Yesi, I. Alumni." At this moment, there was a knock on the door. A voice sounded outside the door, "Mr. Mo, there is a document that you need to see in person." Chiao Mian immediately reached out to push Mo Yesi away. But the man seemed to have realized that she would do this. He tightened his arms and hugged her tightly. He lowered his head and bit her ear gently, "Don't move." Chiao Mianmian's whole body stiffened, and her ears began to feel hot. Looking at her shy and blushing look, Mo Yesi curled his lips happily, raised his head and said to the person outside the door, "Come in." Asterisk. Wei Zheng opened the door and saw the scene of dog abuse. His Mr. Mo was sitting at the desk holding the young lady in his arms, holding a document in one hand and holding the other around the young lady's waist. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 179. Chapter 179. It's Mr. Mo like this. Wei Zheng. I never expected that his Mr. Mo would be such a Mr. Mo. I usually look like such a serious person. Hence with my wife actually during working hours. Moreover, he didn't shy away from his subordinates at all. Wei Zheng, exuding the resentment of a single man, walked into the office with documents in hand. Mr. Mo. He presented the document with both hands. "This is the latest financial statement for this quarter." Yeah, Mo Yesi took it and responded calmly, "Please inform me that I will get off work an hour early today." Wei Zheng. He raised his head in shock, with a look of disbelief on his face, fearing that he had heard wrongly, "Get off work an hour early." He is not dreaming. "Why, you don't want to?" Mo Yesi glanced at him. The expression on his face remained the same as usual, but there was a bit more joy in his eyes than usual. Wei Zheng looked at him, then at Chiao Mian in his arms, and immediately understood something. Sure enough, falling in love makes people beautiful. Even Mr. Mo, who is passionately in love, is no exception. Being more approachable and humane than usual. For the first time in his life, he was able to leave work early, even if it was just an hour early. Wei Zheng felt particularly satisfied. He immediately replied, "Yes, yes, I will inform you right away." "Well, go ahead." Mo Yesi waved his hand at him, indicating that he could leave. Wei Zheng did not dare to stay any longer and immediately turned around and left quickly, leaving space for the young couple. After he left, only Mo Yesi and Chiao Mian were left in the office. Mo Yesi hugged Chiao Mian, picked up the financial statement and read it. Chiao Mian lay in his arms and waited for a while. Seeing that the man still had no intention of letting her go, she raised her head, bit her lip and whispered, "Can you let me go now?" The man lowered his head and looked at her with charming eyes, "Huh? Don't you still have to work?" Chiao Mian glanced at the financial report in his hand, "I will disturb you." "Won't." Mo Yesi gently curled his lips, and the smile on his lips made Chiao Mian's little heart beat fast again. "I can work much faster if I hold you in my arms. Baby, please let me hold you for a while, and I'll be there soon. After get off work, I can spend time with you." Chiao Mian. Who cares about his company? After Mo Yesi finished speaking, he reached out and touched her head, then lowered his head to read the report. He quickly got into working mode, and he was in that serious working state again that made Chiao Mian a little excited and fascinated. During this period, he never teased her again. Chiao Mian lay in her arms for a while, and slowly fell asleep again. Asterisk. When she woke up again, she found that she was in a different place. She was still lying in Mo Yesi's arms, but he moved her to the car. She stretched out her hand to rub her eyes and looked at the buildings passing by outside the car window. It was blurry for a while, and then she asked softly, "Where are we going?" Her voice was originally very soft and sweet. When she first woke up, she felt a little confused with a milky breath, and Mo Yesi was so cute by her voice. He lowered his head, clasped her chin with his long white fingers, raised her head and kissed her. Chiao Mian was still a little confused. Oh. She was so caught off guard by the man's kiss that she almost fell asleep again. Only then did the man, who pressed her lips until they were red and swollen, let go of her with a deep look in his eyes. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 180. Chapter 180. I don't like timid women. He breathed quickly against her forehead. He tightened his arms around her waist and spoke in a hoarse voice, I've taught you so many times, but you still haven't learned how to breathe. It seems that you need to practice more in the future. Chiao Mian. You have practiced frequently enough now, okay. As soon as he saw her, he kissed her. They have all become crazy kissers. And the kisses were so deep every time, she felt like she would be suffocated to death by his kisses every time. Uncle Lee in the front row saw this scene, his eyes looked at his nose looked at his lips, and he pursed his lips and snickered. So good. It seems that the young master's problem has been completely cured. Not only can I touch women now, but I can also do some intimate actions without any problem. This is all thanks to the young lady. Asterisk. 10 minutes later. The black Rolls-Royce stopped outside a private club. After Mo Yesi got out of the car, he reached out and took Chiao Mian's hand. Just as Chiao Mian started to struggle, she felt him hold her hand tighter. Under the leadership of the manager, he led her into the club. As he walked, he said to her, Yan-san and Shenro have arrived and are waiting for us in the box. Chiao Mian was a little nervous. They all knew each other, and she was the only one who was considered a stranger at this gathering. I don't know if her visit is good or not, and whether it will affect them and his few friends. Although he said he didn't need to care too much, how could she really not care? That, she bit her lip and pulled off his sleeve. Mo Yesi lowered his head and looked at her. You said this time you were here to support your friend, so why don't we buy some gifts for her? She was a little embarrassed to come empty-handed like this. No need, Mo Yesi said calmly, I'm not an outsider, so I don't need to be so exposed. Walking outside a box, the club manager stopped. The door is ajar. As soon as she walked over, Chiao Mian heard a woman's delicate laughter coming from inside. Yan Ziasan, you are going to die, your skin is itchy, aren't you? Farewell, Miss Shen, I can't bear the iron sand palm of your hand. You are the one with the iron sand palm. The door is ajar. Why hasn't my second brother come yet? Call me and ask. I just sent him a WeChat message, he should be here soon. By the way, the second brother has repeatedly told us that when the sister-in-law comes, we should all restrain ourselves and don't scare the sister-in-law when we meet for the first time. A slightly mocking snort sounded out. It was the voice of a young man. The voice was gorgeous and pleasant, but it also had a bit of indifference that could repel people thousands of miles away. It sounds like we are so scary. If you are so timid, don't bring it here. I don't like timid women. When did I fall in love with such a weak and useless woman? Fourth brother, you can just say these things in front of us, but don't say it in front of the second brother and sister-in-law. You know the second brother, he protects his shortcomings. If you talk about his wife like this, he may follow you fell out. The man with the gorgeous voice snorted again and sneered, if he doesn't even want a brother for a woman he has only known for a few days, then just fall out, I don't care. Zeli, the woman's voice sounded again, isn't what you did like giving up an important person for an unimportant person? End of this chapter.